Hello, everyone. My name is Fauzia Ehsani, and I was working around 8 years in Ministry of Transport of Afghanistan as advisor to Minister and Director of Foreign Relations and Legal Affairs, and finally Deputy Minister for Finance and Admin. My final job with the government of Afghanistan was the senior political advisor to political parties affairs in High Council for National Reconciliation. Now I am a student at the University of York, and I study public policy and public administration. I'm grateful to all of you for your participation in our 2 days event. Welcome all. And I'm pleased to moderate today's panel with very distinguished guests. This panel will discuss the works, achievements, and future plans of the Untold Stories, the original and unexpected stories of Afghan women writers. Please don't forget to watch an inspirational story from one of our PhD students at the politics department, Mamoun Khabar. At the end of this event, he has beautiful narrated his 12 years journey to the University of York and why he is in York and what York means to him. Now, I would like also to thank particularly Miss Lucy Hanna for being with us today. I'm starting with you, Miss Lucy.
Hello.
I'm sure many of you know Lucy. She is the creative producer and program director of Untold Stories Afghanistan. She founded and led Commonwealth Writers, which operates across 53 countries, particularly in areas with little or no creative industries. During her time at BBC, she established the BBC Writers' Room, which discovers, develops, and champions new writing talents. She has worked with the writers in areas of the conflict and post-conflict, including Afghanistan, Chechnya, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Sudan, and Northeast Nigeria. She is a visiting research fellow at King's College London, director of the BOCAS Litfest in Trinidad, and a trustee of Vital Exposure Theatre. Lucy, tell us when the project started and what has been achieved so far.
Okay, hello, Fauzia and everyone. Excuse me not being in vision, but I'm in bed with COVID, so that's why. Yes, so this project, Untold Stories Afghanistan, started back in 2019, which was, it actually originally started in about 2017 when I was in Afghanistan having conversations with script writers on the long-running radio soap opera, New Home, New Life in Afghanistan, which I'm sure you're very well aware of. And we were talking about opportunities for writers who are writing prose fiction. And the women writers in the group particularly said that, you know, there were very few opportunities for them to get published locally, never mind in translation, more internationally. And so that sparked the idea really for this initiative. And myself and two of the writers in the anthology, My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, Parwana and Sharifa Passoon, set about raising funds to start an initiative to help women writers locally to develop their craft, to develop their work in translation, and to connect them to each other. So that was the beginning of this project.
And how is going on, Lucy? Could you please tell us more about the project and how many stories you collected, or is it published or no, or how you will publish it and something like this?
Well, we put out 2 open calls across the country, supported by the British Council initially, and these attracted 120 submissions from women writers across the country in 2019, and then nearly 300 submissions in 2021. And we put together a team of readers, Afghan readers, to select the stories and the writers who have the most potential for publication, both locally and internationally. And we worked with a group of about 30 writers over the last 2.5 to 3 years. And one of the outputs from this program, it's still going, is the anthology called My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, published by Macleho's Press in February this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is that came out despite the events last August, and also working through COVID-19 2020-21.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I'm sure by now we all know about the project's background, and I may come back to you. But before that, I would like to go to our next panelist, Miss Parwana Fayyaz. Parwana Fayyaz is our next panelist. That Parwana, could you please kindly share with us your reflections on how Afghan women contributed to this project, and how their writings were collected and presented? I'm quite sure that you've been there as one of the our translator in this project. But first of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Parwana. She holds PhD in Persian studies and has been involved with literature for many years. Now, she completed her PhD in Persian studies at Trinity College in 2020 and is now a research fellow at Peterhouse, Cambridge, focusing on medieval Persian literature and the dialect between the Eastern and Western cultures, which began with the work of the poet Jami. Parwana, I know that you are working closely with the Untold Stories as a translator. Could you please tell us about your experience with the Untold Stories project as a translator?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fayyaz. It's such an honor to be part of this event. I am so incredibly happy to be here. And thank you, Lucy, for joining us despite being sick. I really appreciate it and not leaving me alone here. So first of all, I'm a scholar. I work on medieval Persian literature, especially, focusing on narrative poetry and how it's structured and how philosophy is really, retold in a poetic form. And also I've been writing poetry for a long time in English, as I did creative writing and comparative literature during my undergrad. And then I became a translator through Lucy, which I'm so grateful to Untold for including me. So when Lucy was saying that when they put together this team together, they were looking for readers and writers within Afghanistan, but she's also forgetting that they also start looking for translators, which is another major part of this this project, really, that makes it a global project that comes forward and really tells us unique and exceptional stories from Afghanistan. So I joined Untold in 2020, right after I had finished my PhD, and I had it was the very beginning of COVID, and I couldn't go home, and things had got back home. Means I still lived in Afghanistan. My family was there, so I have a close connection to the city and to the culture, to Afghanistan, obviously. And sadly, I couldn't go home for 3 years or so. And when Lucy Hannah approached and told me about the stories and about the project, it just was a moment of visiting home and being able to capture the essence of the city and the people and the culture through the stories that I was about to translate. So I was deeply touched by the stories, and to take part was one of the best things that have happened to me and that always bring joy to me. So yes, I'm one of the translators and one of the early readers of the stories that came in this beautiful book together. So yeah, that's how I got involved with the project.
Fawzia, can I just add something?
Yes, sure, please.
To Parwana's that thank you, Parwana, for being part of the project, but also Parwana was one of 5 translators who worked on the project over the 2 years. And in a way, you know, literary translation is at the heart of this project, because it obviously enables these stories to find a new audience. So part of our work was also to look for new literary translators, and we were lucky to have people like Parwana, who's obviously a poet in her own right, and who has a great sensitivity towards language.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. But I will get back to you. But in this stage, I would like to invite Fatema Jan to Miss Fatema Haidari to join us. First of all, I would like to introduce Fatema Haidari. She is writer and activist. She graduated from Sayyid Muhammad Qanat High School, Herat, Afghanistan. She commenced at Herat University, Faculty of Language and Literature English Department. She could not proceed with her education due to security deterioration, and like hundreds and thousands of the other Afghans, unfortunately, they fled the country. She was one of the proactive students in the university at the university. She attended seminars, workshops, and debate sessions. She is a fiction writer, and one of her fiction writing pieces is part of the anthology entitled "My Pen is the Wing of a Bird," which is several years endeavor of the project entitled Untold Stories Afghanistan. Fatema, I wanted to give you the floor to you. Could you please share your thought with us about this project?
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Wish you be fine and healthy. Yes, at the first, when I saw the advertisement of Untold Afghanistan rights, I just sent one of my stories that I usually write to them. And I even didn't expect that one day my story would be published. I'm really effort of Untold team. Thank you. Thank you. It's because of your tries that I'm here with you as a published writings, like working in group, and also sharing my thoughts and the new ways of writing. And it's all because of Untold team and the new friends that I have found in Untold team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fatema. I would like to share that as you may know, this from 22 to 24 is the Refugee Week, and too many of Afghan women are really vulnerable from the war, and they had to leave the country. And I'm very, very happy that because of this project, because I'm an Afghan woman who lived in Afghanistan, and unfortunately, we all had to leave Afghanistan because of the security reason. And I'm quite sure that because of the Russia invasion to Ukraine, the international community are going to forget the Afghan woman situation in Afghanistan. And I hope the Untold Stories can help us to raise our voice. And I'm quite sure that all women in Afghanistan has a tragic story to tell. And it is very, very good project. But I have a question here from Lucy. Lucy, could you please just share how people or how the other Afghan women or girls can share their stories with you to publish it, at least some, the international community and the women in the other part of the world can inform about the Afghan woman situation, and also it might be help the women in Afghanistan to abandon from the prison that the Taliban established for them. Could you please help share that how people can share their stories with you for publication?
Yes, so at the moment we are raising funds to continue the program. So if anybody is interested or know anyone who would like to support us, they can go to our website, untold-stories.org, and donate, because that is the only way we can continue our work. Meanwhile, we are, so at the moment we're basically fundraising and working with the existing writers who we have. We don't have the capacity to work with new writers at the moment. However, as soon as we have raised funds, we will be starting working with new writers again. So I think the best thing is for people to keep visiting our website, where we will let you know as soon as possible, or email us to say you're interested, so that we know you're there and we can come back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have some question here that may I ask it? Karan asked Lucy, what story has touched you the most and why?
I think you should probably ask Parwana that one as well, but from my point of view, oh God, it's very difficult because they all do. But I think one of my favorites is in the anthology is by a writer called Masuma Kausari, and it's called "The Dogs Are Not to Blame," and it's about funnily enough, it's about a man, a male petition writer in Kabul, but it's a very beautiful little portrait of him. And perhaps Parwana has a favorite that she worked on.
Yes, all of the stories, as Lucy said, every story captures a different essence of the space or people's sense of their life. And every story really captures a moment that you want to just stay in and experience it. And for me, I think one of my favorite, I mean, not really favorite, but one of the first stories that I got to translate is, it's called Please Turn the Air Conditioning On, Sir, which is about this young man traveling from one part of the city to another. And this entire journey takes place in the bus, trying to really live between the living person he is and a dying person that he could be, because of, the explosions happen. Every day is a dangerous day to live in a Kabul, in Kabul city. So that that environment that's created in the story really captures the fact that Kabul is really a tent city that really brought so much memory for me. And I know it always stays one of my favorite stories. And it's written by Mariam Mahjouba. And based on one of our requests from our audience, someone wanted us to read. So I'm really happy to read an excerpt from that story, if that's okay. So I'll try to find it. I found it online, which is a good thing. That way I can share my screen as I'm reading. You'll be able to follow up. So I found the book on Google, and I thought that was just the best way to share the screen and give you a sense of what this book really contains. So the story that I'm about to read is called Please Turn the Air Conditioning On, Sir, by Mariam Mahjouba, and it's translated from Dari by myself and Dr. Zubair Popalzai. If he says this out loud, everyone immediately around him will complain, or they will mock him given how cold the weather is at this time of year, happy that space is tight in the car and they have to sit close to one another. As the number of vehicles grows and the traffic gets worse, his sweat increases and a warmth spreads from behind his neck over his whole body. When a bigger truck full of bricks stops beside their car, his body clenches. If that truck is full of gas and petrol, he grips the handle of the roof more tightly and turns his face to the person sitting next to him, but without any smile to offset his fear, his anger, and his distress, so that no one will fight or make a scene, so they will not ask what they have done wrong or deserve such a look. He pretends that he wants to look at the shops or vehicles on their side. As he warms up, his cologne permeates the packed space inside the car and mixes with the smell of smoke and petrol and dust. There is no escaping. When he looks beyond the window to his left, there is a loaded trailer. To his right sits a person, another person after that. When he looks past them through the window, the vehicles are also full of people, and they are moving slowly, slowly, one after another. Beyond them, there are grocery stores whose interiors are full of rice and oil, and whose exteriors are piled with carrots of yellow and red apples, pomegranates and oranges. Their colors spread warmth. The smoke of kebab slowly wafts upwards from a restaurant and disperses. On the floor above, it's a cafe, its sign darkened by the smoke. So that's a beautiful image of Kabul that I see. Anyone traveling in Kabul, going from one corner of the city to another, you will have the same aura, the same sense of feeling of how busy the city is. And if you want to distract yourself, you just see beyond the window and see the normal life that was surrounded the city. And yeah, for me, that's the most authentic depiction of Kabul. And yes, that story always stays with me, and that's why it's one of my favorites. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Parwana John, to sharing. It's very, very beautiful. Actually, I remember the times where I've been in Afghanistan and in Kabul, that it was really described very beautiful and close to reality of the Kabul, and we can feel it that it's really brought me to the Afghanistan, to the Kabul. And thank you very much. But there is a question from Fatema. Fatema, could you please tell to our audience that what got you into writing and what drove you to Untold share your work?
When I loved writing, when I was at school at 7th class, we had a teacher, Miss Taimuri, that she always told us that try to write every time that you are free. Try to write. Maybe she endures us to write journals every week. Because of that, we would write always. I have been writing all my life, for example. because of that, I loved writing, and I have write many stories. And when I saw the advertisement of Untold on Facebook, it just by chance, I shared one of my story to Untold, and I didn't expect, but today I am very happy.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I have another question from Lucy. Lucy, could you please share that some of our attendants asked that I wondered if Lucy could talk a bit about the challenges involved in this project. Could you please share the challenges that you faced during this project, Lucy?
Yeah, how long have you got? There were many challenges. Not least the switch last August from turning from a very patient and sort of methodical writer development program almost overnight into a emergency situation where we had to actually remove all the writers' work that we had worked for the last 2 years to get online globally, had to be removed for security reasons when the Taliban retook Kabul in August. So that was a huge challenge for us, which we managed to do, and were very well supported by the group. And we then had to find different ways to continue to work with the writers in order to produce the anthology and to continue working together in a more secure way that safeguarded the writer's safety. So that was a big one. Obviously, we were working remotely for 2 years. We did it all via WhatsApp calls. So every call had a writer, translator, and an editor on it. And we managed actually for 2+ years never to have a call that didn't work, actually. And so, which was incredible. So logistically, it was quite challenging to find a way of working that worked for everybody. But the commitment from the group of women writers in Afghanistan was so utterly 100% that it was very easy to find ways around the challenges, because the group, including Fatema, obviously were so supportive and so keen to work on their stories and work with an editor for the first time ever, really, and a translator, and were so determined to get their work out into the wider world.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I have some other question here that one of is from Parwana. Parwana, could you please tell us that what were some of the issues that come up in translating the works into English language?
I think in any language, when you try to capture that, the way of speaking, the way of thinking into another language, you have to really get into that space of where the original language is really created. And I think for me, a lot of phrases that are just very popular within, Afghans, within Dari speakers in Afghanistan, to translate them into English could have been, it was a challenge, obviously, but also I love that aspect of language when it can fall in between those two languages, where, it can't be fully English or it can't be fully Persian, but it's something in between when you translate, or the translated sentence or word or phrase. And for me, that's where the joy comes. And I think as a poet myself, I wrote my first book of poetry on names. It's called 40 Names, basically. And I just had finished the first draft when I started working on, translating stories for Untold. And in that translation, moving from kind of trying to understand something in Persian and then to transmit that knowledge into English, I had to make a decision whether to leave it as it was or have to kind of play with it. And there were many challenges, but obviously as a translator, you have enough power to make it work. So I think I was very happy to take that, that power in hand and try to kind of fashion the language the way I wanted. And obviously, because Untold was such an organized program that if we had a question about a text, we would be connected to our writers in Afghanistan, and through WhatsApp, we would call them and then try to make sense of something. And if something was completely vague, we would ask the writers if they could work on it. So there is, a little bit of an editorial processing that we had to go as translators too. So for me, I think, as Fatema so beautifully said somewhere about this, that getting involved with Untold was more or less about finding new ways to write, or also finding new friends. And there was a way of networking. And to be honest, as a translator, that's what I found so useful, new ways to think, new ways to work with language, and new ways to translate, but also, finding friends, writer friends back in Afghanistan, or those who are in Iran, like Fatima herself. So, the challenges were there, but Untold always made it possible for us to, one way or the other, come up with ways to connect to the writers and make a much more honest work, a transmission of the knowledge. So but obviously, some of the challenges that we could never answer, we just left it to that. It's like the first draft of the book was put together was not putting the names of the writers. That was one of the challenges, to be honest, that we went through. But things changed within a few months, and we had to come up with a better way to understand the writers' connection with their stories. But we were never alone. I'm trying to say we were a team here. I was with Lucy, Will, and so many other beautiful people. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Parwana, for your efforts to translate Untold Stories, because it has, I think the Untold Stories is very, very valuable for all women in Afghanistan, because at least they know that someone can share their stories, their challenges, or all issues that the woman in Afghanistan is facing with that in these days. And now, actually, it is really valuable work. I'm very, very happy, and thank you very much again. And I wanted to go to the next question. Lucy, someone asked you that what do you think this project has meant for the writers involved, and what legacy do you think it might have?
Goodness, well, I think you should ask Fatima what it has meant for the writers, because from the ones I've spoken to, it has meant a lot to be connected to each other, and that network is still going, and we are working with the writers as a group together, so they are all still connected to each other, despite the fact that 10 out of the 18 in this anthology have now left the country, but they are still connected via WhatsApp and Untold, and we talk regularly and we share work regularly. So in terms of legacy, well, we are still going. So I don't really talk in terms of legacy yet, because our work has only just begun, and there's so much more to do. There are so many more stories to tell, and we are working towards carrying on doing that, so long as we can get the support. And as Parwana said, we are a team, so it's a team of translators, editors, and writers who are all working on this together. So I do think we all get a great benefit from this by the team effort and by our supporting each other, because it has been a total team effort.
Fatema, I wanted to give you the floor. Do you have anything to add?
I think everything has been told. Lucy has a nice speaking, and I think it's enough.
Okay. Thank you. I have more questions from the panelists. One of them is that what sort of topics were written about in the anthology? What was surprising, exciting, or interesting about the stories for you? And Fatema, Parwana, or Lucy, any of you can, could you please answer to this question?
Well, I was just trying to encompass this global theme and topics that the stories really bring. It's like a mother's desire to see their children, right? One of the stories about a mother's trying to connect or reconnect to her children who have left for the West, and she can only connect with them through a screen, through Skype, and those things come up, human relationships. And another thing that comes up, a human being's desire to own something, or a woman's desire to have certain things in order to make her feel that she has enough power in her household, or in her sense of self, comes across a lot of these stories. And then there is also beautifully narrated stories by women about men trying to achieve that sense of self. And there is also a story of a transgender young boy who this story is so beautiful that you're just going to get captured in that dance that he does, and this imagination of being this beautiful woman. So this anthology is really picking on so many themes and topics that can be in any world literature that you're looking for. Obviously, it's very the scene, the place, and it's very limited to Afghanistan and to Kabul city most probably, but there is also, any other theme that you're looking in any other kind of literature. So so I will leave it to our audience to pick up the book and to read that, how each story contains something that teaches you something and represents something that's more broader than just, I don't know, this it's a human need, and the story that this writers, that also tells about the skill of this writers achieving that style of writing, that imagination, just goes beyond the various, one specific place, but also, universally connects to so many other human desire, needs, and all those things. So I hope you really get the book and read the stories, because yeah, it's one of the stories you don't want to miss out. So
thank you very much. Okay, I have, there is a question that actually it is my question as well, that what can the international community do to further the strength and visibility of this voice and stories? Actually, it is my question as well, because the international community had some commitment to the women in Afghanistan during the past 20 years. They are really trying to strengthen, empower the women in Afghanistan, but now international community left behind everything. And now it is actually my question as well. What can the international community do to further the strength and visibility of these voices and stories? And
well, the first thing, well, there are two things. One is that we were asked this question at Hay Literary Festival recently, and the translator Zaguna Kaga, who was on the panel with me, asked a question back, which was, where have all the feminists gone? So, for example, Michelle Obama and many others who were quite you know, quite loud in their support have vanished recently. And so I think there needs to be a big move in terms of not forgetting Afghanistan at the moment, as we all know. And as far as projects like this go, we need support. You know, we can't do this without resources. We need, basically, to be quite crude about it, we need funding to continue. And there are many international foundations that could step in to do this. And so the more we can get the word out and the more support we can get to carry on this work, particularly now, it's even more critical than ever, the better. And I'm sure Fatema may have a word for what she feels the international community could be doing.
Maybe I think they should not leave us alone. We are alone. We need to be empowered because Afghan women are alone. And I think they can read our stories and show sympathy and be with us to empower women and also to help us. And I think it's just the things that I want to say.
Parwana, do you have anything to add?
I think Lucy and Fatima said it all. I think not to forget, I think it's a must thing, and the world needs to know that, you know, the world's interference to what's happening in Afghanistan, it's going to really shape the women's future, right? If they think, because it's never going to get any better. I can tell that, you know, Afghan women and children are going to suffer, and there has to be a way that international community can have their offices back in Kabul, and projects like Untold get enough funded to reach out to these women, and that they are safe enough to write their stories and their voices are heard. And it's also, you know, there is also a lot of Afghan writers, a lot of Afghan women families got displaced. They're right now all around the world, and their voices needs to be heard too. You know, a lot of people were taken from Kabul, not taken, but, you know, voluntarily they wanted to leave the country, and they're elsewhere, you know, trying to figure something new out. Those stories also matter. So I think there is, when we say international community has to make sense of, you know, their own importance and how to interfere, it's more or less about, you know, knowing that they can also take responsibility and do something. And obviously the same question, where are these feminist activists who wanted Afghan women to be free and to have voices and to have a sense of themselves? And we need those voices back in order for our voices, for Afghan women's voices to be heard. So I really hope that there will be a day that collectively we come back together and we do something about Afghan women and women in Afghanistan. So yeah.
I will move on to the next question, that what has the reception to the book been like?
Well, the reception has been incredible, actually, so far. It's been reviewed very widely in the UK. It is on its third print run at the moment. It's selling very well in India and Australia, and it's coming out in America in October, and it's just been translated into Japanese, and hopefully it will be translated into German later this year.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy that at least the reception was very good. I would like to end our event here. And I'm very, very, thank you very much, Lucy, that you are not very well, but you join us. And thank you very much to all the panelists and our audience who've been here with us. And in this stage, I would like to request you to be here with us and watch our video from Mamoun Khavar, our PhD student in Department of Politics. And he will tell us about his 12 years journey with the University of York and York City. Thank you very much to be here with us. And please stay here with us and watch the movie. Thank you very much.
Hello and assalamu alaikum. My name is Mamoun Khavar and I'm from Afghanistan. I'm a first-year PhD student at the Department of Politics, University of York. I would like to take this brief opportunity to share with you my 12 years of journey with the University of York. I would like to share with you why I am in York and what York means to me. I started working with the University of York in 2010 when it had an evaluation project with Afghanistan's National Solidarity Program, NSP, the country's flagship community-based development program. From NSP's side, I was the project coordinator. Being one of the world's prestigious institutions, I was immensely inspired and always wished to study here. I started my first master's degree in public administration, international development with the Department of Social Policy and Social Work through an online program. In 2014, I was granted UK's prestigious Chevening Scholarship, and I had the honor to pursue my second MA degree in International Relations at York's Department of Politics. But that was not enough because I wanted to carry on and do a PhD program as well. After returning to Afghanistan in 2015 and spending several years of working with various national and international organizations in Kabul, in 2021, I had an honor to receive an unconditional offer of a PhD. With all those emotions and excitements of returning to York in my heart and mind, my PhD journey from Afghanistan to York was not easy. It was 15 August 2021 when Kabul was captured by the Taliban. Like many other Afghans, I was stuck there with my family and had no way to get out of the country. Whilst it was a complete chaos, international flights were suspended, airports were closed, and people had no access to banks and money, I was hopeless, helpless, and distressed. I had no hope to be able to make it to the UK. But it was not the case. In the middle of that dark tunnel of hopelessness, there was a bright candle of hope. One evening, I was contacted by the university. They asked me to stay strong and hopeful. They offered me assistance, guidance, and information about how to safely leave Afghanistan. More importantly, given my circumstances, I was granted an equal access scholarship to pursue my PhD and start a new life in the UK with my family. As such, York is not just a university to me, it's beyond an academic institution. As a university for public good and on the principles of excellence and opportunity for all, the University of York is a university of sanctuary. York is not just a university to me because it took my hand and embraced me in times of difficulty. York is not just a university to me because it provided me sanctuary. As I very much enjoy my research project now, without York's courageous support and generous gifts of our donors, my PhD journey to the UK wouldn't have been possible. Thank you.